Rockwood.
I think my biggest secret is you don't focus on what you had, you focus on what you have. Technically, I'm classified as a C4, C5 quadriplegic complete. So basically what that means is I'm paralyzed from the neck down. The accident has changed my life in so many ways. It's tested me. It's allowed me to show my strength. I'm an actress, a working model, and I'm an ambassador for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. I'm also an innovator, I'm centered, and I'm loving. Having the friendship with the girls is very powerful. And what keeps me going each day are the people that I love, my friends and my family. My name is Angela, and I'm a push girl.
Push Girls. Go to SundanceChannel.com for videos, top 10 lists, and more.
I'm just like,
me, babe.
I just love hanging out with you. I mean,
I
as
know.
we know, I call Angela the Manifestor. You've heard of the Terminator. This is the Manifestor.
The
Manifestor. So I have a question.
Yes.
What do you want the most at this moment in your life?
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. There's so much. What do I want the most? For the synergy of life to continue to flow the way it is, where everything is just falling into place.
Oh, I love that.
A lot of stuff going on in my life. But and as the obstacles pop up, I just plow through them and just trust, and the magic's happening. So just want the magic to continue happening and unfolding as quickly as it is, because I'm manifesting very quickly now.
Yeah. It's interesting. There are times when I've noticed that, especially with you, you could say something and within an hour it happens.
It's happening within a minute, David. It's scary. I'm not kidding.
Really?
I'm not kidding, but you know me. I'll say it happens within an hour. First, it was like happening the next day, then it was happening the day. But I just did something the other day, 2 days ago, and I said, I need to know this, this, and this. And all of a sudden, I looked down at my phone. I decided to pick it up. It was a solicitor, but the solicitor happened to be the person that I was meeting.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. Because I was like, hello? And he's like, hi, I'm da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, hi. He's like, are you Angela Rockwood? And I'm like, yeah. You know, because you're kind of like hesitant. And then, long story short, he's like, oh, I wanted to ask you, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you're not going to believe. I was like, that's like an understatement. And he's like, really? He's like, so it's kind of serendipity. And I'm like, I guess you could say that.
Oh my gosh.
He actually used the word serendipity. And I was like, okay, this is freaky. I was like, universe, like, what are you doing? It's not funny anymore.
Oh my gosh. You know, one thing I forgot to say introducing you is that you, to me, you are one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Oh, I love you, David.
I love you, Angela.
Aw.
But it's true. I mean, look at you.
Smoke and mirrors.
Oh, smoke and mirrors. No, that, you know, it, and you know where it comes from? It comes from this. It comes from your heart. It's just like, look at that angelic light behind you.
I can't see it because I see you now.
Good. No, that's okay. That's okay. It's gorgeous.
There.
It's gorgeous. So when did you first get connected to the word manifestation?
The actual word?
The word and its meaning. Yeah.
The actual word, or just like when I was doing it?
Sure.
The actual word. I started doing it when I was like 6.5, 7 years old.
Really?
Yeah, but as of the word, I would have to say maybe right before my car accident, like when I was about 25, 25, 26, probably during that time when I really embraced the law of attraction. And then when I truly started to understand it, this is the whole thing where there was that whole wave of The Secret going around and everything. And people were starting to talk about the law of attraction and manifestation and everything. But I would say, because I started these goddess parties
I
when I
remember.
was- before my accident. Yeah, I actually saw some pictures too. I found photo albums
Oh, that's
of photos from the actual parties. And I'm trying to think of one of the invitations if it says come manifest with us or something. I have to look at it. So I was like 25 and I'm 45 now.
yeah. So about 20 years, huh?
20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years
Although
ago.
you did say 6.5. What's 6.5? Why did
Oh,
that?
when I was 6.5, 7 years old. So when I was little, this is gonna sound crazy, but and this goes for people who believe in past lives and everything, because I was raised Christian. I mean, my father's Catholic and my mom's Buddhist, but I was raised Christian. But when I was living in North Carolina for a brief moment, I remember I was sitting there and I was playing, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, somebody taught me this. Someone taught me this. Like, I didn't just learn this, like, I learned this from somewhere. And I was thinking from another time. Like I actually was thinking this when I
Mm,
was like 6.5, 7 years old. But as a manifestation, the thing was my grandfather, not my biological grandfather, he was an illustrator for the Bible. And I used to hang out with him in his art room and just watch him and everything. And that's when I started to use the exercises of visualization because I would see my grandfather drawing and sketching and illustrating. And then I started getting my coloring books and I would see an elephant on the coloring book. And then all of a sudden, I'd see the elephant in my mind. And without looking, I would start sketching what I saw in my mind. So I knew what I saw in my mind, I could put it in front of my face. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then, as you're a kid and as you start getting older, remember Sears Roebuck's catalog? So like I remember flipping through it, and then you would see like the Barbie van or a record player, or there's certain things that you would want as a child.
Yeah.
So I would see myself holding them, like my father giving it to me as a gift. And then it just started this whole imagining thing in my mind, I guess you would say. And
Yeah.
then before I knew it, I would see it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that. I knew this was gonna happen. And then sure enough, like I'd have my record player and then I'd have my little Barbie van. And so uh yeah, I'm just like thinking because also being clairvoyant
Right.
also has a lot to do with it because I was already tapped into my sixth sense when I was a little girl. That's like a whole other story.
Right.
But so I think the visualization techniques, I was doing it effortlessly and naturally without even knowing that I was doing it, if that makes any sense.
Right. And then you said right before your accident, it really came into
Yeah, so
manifestation. Manifestation came into
when
man.
I met my first ex-husband, I Dustin, he brought me to this Buddhist retreat where I learned how to really learn how to chant and meditate. And so I started chanting and meditating every day. So I started becoming more open and more clairvoyant. And with that, my visualization techniques just became stronger. And whatever I would visualize, I mean, I've always been someone that's always goal oriented, where I would write everything down and I'd make sure I would meet my deadlines and things like that. But it wasn't until I was 25 where I was actually connecting with the higher source, putting things and ideas down, and then putting the energy out there to really attract it and make it into reality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at 25 was the year that I really embraced myself as a woman and just owned my womanhood and my spirituality and who I was as a person. Like I remember sitting down saying, I am Angela Rockwood. Like I looked at my name like I am an angel. Rockwood is like rocking Hollywood, like on this earth. Like that is who I am. Like I just embraced everything of all my gifts and everything. And so I just felt this power, this energy, this magic within me, and I was just owning it at 25.
Well, you are the one who taught me about manifestation and about 1111.
Yeah, I've always done 1111. I didn't realize how far back I did 1111 to one of my best friends, Jana Pansoy. She's in Hawaii now. I actually was trying to look for her
Yeah.
Facebook last night, but she's the one that reminded me. She's like, I remember you used to say 1111 like way back. We were like 12. And I think another girlfriend of mine, Tony Perez, when I was in Madrid, Spain, I used to also see the numbers and call out the numbers too. So I've always had this fascination with numbers. And
Yeah.
I've always had this thing with angels and the spirit realm and all of that. And so, yeah.
What is, for those who don't know, what is 1111?
Well, 1111, that's like a whole other show of its own. Because there's a lot of meanings with 1111, but for me, what it started with, I mean, that's majority for folks that are light warriors. But then I have another friend who will disagree and say other things. That's a whole other story. But when I was young, 1111 for me is like when you see the ones, like the 1 1 1 1,
Mm,
the numbers. For me, it's like each one represents each of us as a person. Okay.
yeah.
And when Shiza hits the fan, and there's an earthquake or whatever's going on in the world, and everybody comes down to like the same level, like
Yeah.
we're all one. We're all one.
Ah, yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with 1111 for me, because I have this thing with the whole spiritual realm with angels and signs and everything. When I would see 1111, it's like, oh, make a wish, the angelic realm is communicating, saying that you're on the right path. Then for light warriors, for folks that are on this earth to give back and to change the world, it's also just like confirmation, it's a whole, there's a whole thing about it, like DNA coding and all this stuff. It gets really, really
That's
deep.
so amazing too, because the other night I was in the kitchen with my mom and I glanced, and what time was it? 11:11. I said, "Mom, 11:11." She went, because right after you taught me, I told her about it, and now she calls me up. It's 11:11, or I call her up, or it's amazing.
So yeah, so 1111 to 111 to 222 to 333 to 444 to 555 to 1221. There's just all these different numbers that whatever's going on in my life specifically will tell me where I need to be, what I need to be doing, what I need to be thinking. And it's just all confirmation. So it's just dialed in to me personally,
Mhm.
not for everyone, but yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite song?
One Day by Modest Yahoo.
Ooh, why that?
I just love it. It's like a feel. I have so many songs, David. You know this, babe.
I know. It's hard to pick.
I love music. Okay. I was just blasting my 80s. Like normally I'm listening to house music like all day long. Like
Yeah.
I'm at the Abbey. But today I decided to put on some 80s because I was with my caretaker. So I was just belting them out. I cannot sing. My diaphragm's paralyzed, so I don't sing, but I was just like belting it out, feeling good, excited for this interview. But song One Day from Modest Yahoo, you put it on, it's a feel good song. He talks about the changes in the world. Like you have to listen to it. It's like one day, I hope that our children will be able to play. There won't be any fighting and wars. It's just a very powerful song.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of songs. It depends what's going on in my life. I can play certain songs. It just keeps me upbeat. I
Yeah.
have so many favorite songs. There's also the one from Bliss called Kissing to I mean, I love all genres, so I can go all day long talking about
Right.
music favorite
Right.
songs. You know
When
this, you come to my house, I'm always playing
I
music.
know, it's like that's why it was so great to be in your guest house for all those years. Memories.
All we have is memories.
So when did you know that, hey, I'm a model, I'm an actress, I'm a performer, I'm a producer. When did this come about? When did you know that you were a creative artist?
I've always been an artist ever since I was little, but when I was 17, I was leaving home. Like, it's that pinnacle time in every teenager's life when they're about to go out into the world and embark and go on their journey to just take over. And for me, unfortunately, my family, we weren't rich. Where I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time. My father had just retired there from the military. And I was, honor student, everything, had straight A's and such. And I had 2 art scholarships, and I was really interested in the medical world. I was both right and left brain. But the thing was, I didn't have the money to put myself into school. And so when I was 15, my real mom, joked with me saying, "Oh, you know what?" Because at the time I was very voluptuous and a little bit of weight here and there. And she's like, "If you lose a little bit of weight, you could do some modeling." And later I had found out that modeling, you can make a lot of money really quickly. And so I figured I could put myself through medical school. But the question that you're asking me is, when did I know? My Auntie Judy, remember Auntie Judy from Fishbone?
Uh,
She always told me that when I was a little girl, I just had this little thing where I just sashay around, and I was just all like, cheesy and cheeky and flirty and all that. And so I always had this flirtatious like energy about me of like fun, and not saying that I wanted to be the ham in front of the camera, because I'm more of the person that likes to sit in the shadows and watch. But I knew growing up I didn't have a role model. Nobody looked like me, because back in the day it was like all blonde, blue eyes, Caucasian. You didn't really see an Asian American woman in
right.
entertainment or in the modeling world, especially back then. You had Christy Brinkley to, uh, I mean, think about the Charlie's Angels to, I mean, nowadays you have Lucy Liu, who like came out as an Asian, but
Yeah.
at that time there was a show called Fame.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, David, do you remember Fame? Fame, I'm gonna live forever. Remember that?
Forever.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn how to fly. Do you remember that show?
Hi.
Right? Yeah. So on that show, there was an Asian woman, Nia
Yeah.
People. Nia Peoples.
Yeah.
And when I was 9 years old in Madrid, Spain, I would record all the shows and I would act them out in front of the mirror. I would memorize her lines and sing and do everything. I can't believe I just shared that. But anyway, so when I was 17, back to what I was saying, I just knew I knew that if you're a name, Cindy Crawford, whatever, Angelina Jolie, if you're a name, not saying that I wanted to be a celebrity or anything like that. It was just, I knew that if I made it to a certain level, or if I made a name for myself and people could see me, I could make changes with my name, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to represent. At the time, 17, I wanted to move to the Big Apple and become the first Asian supermodel and be in Sports Illustrated and Victoria's Secret and all this. And I did it. I manifested it. I was like, what the hell? And I remember, David, I got down on my hands and knees and I prayed. I was terrified. I was like, what am I gonna do with my life? I prayed to God and I was like, please tell me what to do. And I got this whole flash of my whole life, even the car accident.
Yeah.
And I knew. I was like, this is my plan. I'm leaving Tampa. I was working at McDonald's. My dad was afraid to teach me how to drive, so I had to walk to McDonald's, save up money.
Yeah.
And I bought a ticket. I flew to Hawaii. I got with this agency who I knew represented models to take them to New York. My goal was to move to New York, to move to the Big Apple and become this big supermodel like Cindy Crawford, and be a name and be the first Asian supermodel. And so everything that I had wrote down that I was going to attain and manifest, I did it. But the only thing I did was I fell in love. I was in New York. I was about to sign a contract. I ended up leaving the modeling world,
Yeah.
and that was it before I was 21, or I turned 21. So that didn't happen. But long story short, it brought me to Los Angeles. And so when it's your destiny and you try to leave the entertainment world, you just get sucked back into it. And so that's what happened.
Well, and then
Back in, yeah.
brought you back in, and you have been on ads and TV shows like oh, I have it here. I remember it and I can't remember.
Oh, good. What TV show? What TV show was I on?
VIP.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, that was the thing, babe. People don't know this, but I actually came to LA. I was going to go to art school.
Yeah.
Santa Monica at a college, whatever. I was going to go there. And, it's the typical when you meet people in LA, oh, what do you do? And I was like, oh, and they're like, are you a model? Are you an actor? I'm like, no. But when I got with my first ex husband, Dustin, he introduced me to acting. I took my first acting class, and before the accident, because you were my first acting class after the accident, but when I took that acting class, I was like, wow. I was like, wow. Because the one thing that I love about acting compared to modeling, you can walk into a room, give them your book, and they can look at you and tear you all up right there in front of you. Like, your shoulders are too broad, your thighs are too thick, or da 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 da. Like, they would say it in your face. But
Yeah.
with acting, you just go in, you do your magic, and you leave. You might hear back from them, you may not, but they don't tear you up. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so, and the more I got the more I got into the acting classes, the more I learned about myself,
Mhm.
because you're forced, not forced, but you dive in within your soul, and you have to start taking the layers off to see what you can play with and what tools you can use to trigger or to, basically manifest those specific tools to pull those specific emotions out, to give them to the camera or whatever it is that you're doing. And so I just fell in love with it. So the big thing, well, it's not big, but it was like a glorified extra, was Fast and the Furious with Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. So when I did that, David, when I was on the set, I remember sitting there like looking around like, oh yeah, I like this. I could totally do this. I was like, this is fun. And that's when I knew, I just knew. And it's interesting. I'm going to be completely open and honest, because after that or before that, I knew, I made the decision, and I took 3 months to be by myself. And I went through this dark period. And I'm sharing this because I think people need to hear this, especially when you go into the entertainment world.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, whether it's entertainment, modeling, whatever it is, when you have to be your own cheerleader. Because of modeling, I knew the demons that I had dealt with back then. And so I knew acting was very similar, that when you walk into that room, if you don't believe in yourself, how are they going to believe in you? And so I knew that I needed to go in, delete a bunch of old recordings and tapes and programming and stuff, and build myself up again
Yeah.
internally, so that I would be able to shine and to be this force that when I walked into the room, that nobody could break me. Do you know what I mean? Because I was broken when I was modeling towards the end of my career. And, I was young. So here I was now, at 23, 24, when I did Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
But I remember the day I went into 3 months of depression. And I remember when I finally surrendered, I was laying in the bed. It was on my house or my apartment I was sharing with my ex at Sierra Bonita. And I remember like opening my arms and my legs and looking up at the ceiling and just like telling God, like, okay, I surrender. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this like negative energy. I'm ready. And I swear to you, David, 20 minutes later, the phone rings, and it was one of my best girls, Hazel. And
Yeah.
she's like, Ange, what are you doing? And I'm like, huh, what's going on? She's like, get up, I'm gonna come pick you up. Let's go downtown. They're looking for Asian girls for this Asian gang for this new movie called Red Line. And I'm like, what? And I hadn't worked out for 3 months. I was not in swimsuit shape. I was like, Hayes, no. She's like, come on. She grabbed me. We went there, and they put me in like this mini skirt or whatever. It was like a huge cattle call. There was like all these girls, like 50 something girls. And I remember the director, Rob Cohen, like pulled up in a golf cart. He hopped off. He walked up in the line of women, looked at all of us. There's all these gorgeous women, like all in bikinis and things. I had this skirt on. I was standing next to my girlfriend. He looked at me. He goes, you're going to be the lead Asian guy's girlfriend. And he looked at my girlfriend. You'll be the sidekick's girlfriend. Had no idea we were friends. And then that was it. Yeah.
Wow.
History. And then I did VIP and I started doing other things. And of course, my car accident happened.
Yeah.
But that's how it started.
Well, it's so interesting you're saying that now, and it's hitting me now because we're all going through that shift right now of being home and getting into our minds and thinking a lot. But what you just said about, going inside of you and clearing out the stuff that you don't need anymore. It's
It was
so like, I know, it's like,
2023 when you said that.
what?
It was 3:33 when you said that. I looked at the clock, but I didn't want to interrupt you. I was like, oh my God, I want to scream out 3:33. But yeah, like you said, babe, it's all about going in and doing the work. You know this. You always said it. It's all about doing the work. And it's not about just doing the work as an actor or a model or a producer or a host or whatever, but you've got to do the work within because you've got to be strong. You've got to be bulletproof. You have to own your stuff, own your shizer, embrace it. So when you walk into that room, like nobody can touch you and they could feel it, the magic, the energy, the flow, the synergy. Like as you always like when you're always like making your sound effects and stuff.
Oh my
You
God.
know, so and it's just like that je ne sais quoi, like the celebrities, the people that have that energy that when they walk into the room, they
Yeah.
just own it. And some of them are so subtle, they don't even have to do anything, just sit there. Like Johnny Depp, I remember I was in the Viper room and everybody was all like, oh my God, Johnny Depp's there. And I'm like, what? And I like turned and I like looked over and all he was doing, he was just sitting there. He was just sitting there in his moment, in his magic, and his serene peace of just ooziness of who he is and so under the radar, but it was just really intense. And I was just like, wow, you know, and it's the same way. It's like it's energy. Like you can be in a restaurant and you could be sitting there eating and someone walks in, you don't even see them, but you just feel the flow of the energy. I'm getting goosebumps. You just feel the flow of the energy. They just kind of look up to see what shifted the energy. You know what I mean?
Well,
And so,
I did that when I was getting my mail one day, and I walked in. I was getting my mail. All of a sudden, I didn't even see her. I just knew. I went, and I looked up, and I went, "Is that her?" And
I'm
all of a
sorry.
sudden, she turned. I didn't say it out loud, but she turned for some reason, and it was Angela Bassett. And I know, right? And I'm like, I love Angela Bassett. And this was the first year I was in LA, and I was still a little, ooh, who's that? Who's that? But she was really, I mean, she is like one of the best.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And I
Powerful.
powerful. Her energy just was in the room, and I felt it. And I looked up, and it was her. And I just said, I just want to thank you for you and what you give to everyone. And she said, thank you. And she just sweet energy. It's just, yeah.
No,
But
I was
that's
working.
in connection to what you were saying about that energy.
No, I was working at Beverly Center at the time, and I was at Bisu Bisu. She came in. I remember her energy, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's Angela Bassett." And she was so subtle, and she was with I don't know if it was her daughter or a friend, and I was just like looking at her, and she just looked over and she just kind of smiled, and I was just like, "Wow, that's a woman right there." Like she
Yeah.
just owns her shiza, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Another woman, I'm going to throw out a name. See
Okay.
whatever pops into your head. Auntie Angel.
Ah, my BFF was texting this morning. She's a firecracker. I always call her firecracker. When we met, it was like magic and synergy, and we could say twin flames energy. And yeah, never. The only other best friend I could think of that the energy was that strong like that, where we just looked at each other and just clicked, was my best friend Geraldine Hernandez. But with Auntie, when she rolled into my hospital room, we just looked at each other and we just knew. And we actually lost contact with one another, which was interesting because when she had called, it was like 1:11 when she left the message. There's all these angel signs and everything like that. But yeah, that's my I call her Juk Juk. She calls me Jack Jack for the little baby that's in what do you call it? The Incredibles? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, I have to say, I'm so blessed that we met in this life because you have taught me so much and have given me so much joy. I mean, you are what I consider extended family.
I
You
love you.
and Jerry and Auntie, but it's just, and Kathy and
Ditto, ditto, David, ditto. You taught me a lot too. I remember when I walked in or rolled into your acting class, thank you to Toby. And yeah, we've gone through a lot. a lot, through the thick and the thin and the crazy and the ups and the downs and life. We've been through it all.
Yeah. What was a moment, if I said the word glorious, a moment in your life that you would say or think of as glorious at this moment?
Wait, say it again. Ask the question again, please.
I'm going to say the word, let's say I say the word glorious.
Glorious.
What is a memory that comes to your mind when I say, oh, that was a glorious moment?
Oh my God. Oh, it was the moment I was sitting on the stage at the Waldorf Astoria in New York.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy story, but crazy, crazy. So remember when I was sharing that I wanted to live in New York, right? To be like
Right.
the first Asian supermodel.
Yeah.
Well, the agency that I was with in Florida, or not, I'm sorry, not Florida, but Hawaii. When they brought me there, it was an event called the MMAI, Modeling Association of America. So it was a competition for models all over the world. So there was different categories and everything. So there was the ballroom, and it was like the grand ballroom. Now, mind you, back in the day, like Marilyn Monroe to just the biggest used to go at this hotel, right? There was also Honda, kind of crazy. But the point is, I was in this grand ballroom, and it was the night where all the agents were supposed to see us, but I was doing the catwalk. And I remember having my moment there before I was going to go out. And I made a wish basically saying that I want to make some changes. Like, I want to see my face and everything all over billboards and this and that. Like, I want to make a change in the world. Okay. David, this is crazy. But it was like 19, 20 years later, I'm in New York with the Push Girls, with my girls. And we are in the car. They're driving us to a hotel. I didn't even know which hotel. And we entered from the side. And I was like, oh my God, this is the Waldorf. So we go inside, and they were bringing us to a room. I had no idea. And we are supposed to do this grand interview on stage. And when they brought us into the room and we rolled into the room, I looked and I started freaking out because it was the same ballroom that I was in 20 years prior. So right then and there, it was so emotional. It was so emotional because I was like, I did it. I freaking did it. It took 20 years, but I did it. Like, I did exactly what I wanted to do, make a shift, make a change.
Yeah.
And I remember being on that stage, and I was so proud and humble and happy, and just, it was such a glorious moment. Like, I was just like, I did exactly what I wanted to manifest, not knowing that I would do it in a wheelchair, not knowing I would be how old at that time, on a TV show with my girls, with my angels, and just, you don't know, you never know.